Okay, I think this works. Testing 1, 2. Got audio. Pretty sure it's working. All right. So, my dad and I used to play this game when I was a kid, where he would sketch something, usually like on a placemat while we're waiting for our food in a restaurant, something like that, where maybe he'd, I don't know, draw a line and a rectangle and a circle, something like that, And then I would have to turn it into something. So then maybe I might do, as a kid, roughly 8 years old or so, I might try to, this is terrible, but I might try to turn it into a car, for example, right? Something like that. You get the idea. So it's a fun game, and I learned a lot. After a while, you start getting more sophisticated. You start doing perspective and things like that. So that was the gist of that idea. In a modern version of that game, I think it might be interesting to do something similar with topology, where, let's see, let me turn on my contours. So if we start with a topology like this, where, you got a cube and 3 cubes below, so it's that. Well, these are all the same topology. They're all that's been stretched. And then if we have a cut plane, like this orange plane here, which actually has some thickness, and it basically is just one edge, one kind of split, and then another edge, right? So I put this into edit mode, and you can see what we have there, right? It's that. And if we turn on sub D, now all of a sudden this can be sort of smooth and kind of interesting. And the other thing you can do is you can give it thickness, as much thickness as you want. So if we were to take this, and I'm going to sub D it. Did I sub D it here? And what did I do? Did I bake that? How come it's not sub D? Okay, I think I must have 2 copies. I have 2 copies. Let's get rid of that guy. Okay, turn on sub D. So, for example, if I wanted to, I don't know what, bend this around however it might be interesting, but try to keep it in roughly the same size envelope as what it started with. So don't try to get it too big, but something like that. Let's just say for fun and interest. It's kind of shoe-like. Maybe we do kind of a more of a manta ray type thing. Just playing with shapes, right? Could be anything. Try to push all this forward some. Pull these guys down. So all of a sudden, like, the playing starts, and it's just hard to stop yourself. Like, yeah, but I want to keep going. So, but I'm trying to make a point. So, okay, so the point is, I have to backtrack now. Let's say I wanted to cut this up in some interesting ways with a really simple plane. Like, what do we get when we start intersecting planes? Well, that's a pretty interesting, cut line for a, so I'm going to pull this way. For the, windshield or whatever it would be. So maybe it's that, and does the thickness help us? Do we have a heavy line at that intersection? I don't know. So let's pull this guy in close, just so we can kind of see a little more of what that effect might look like. And, maybe it does a graphic across the top here where it actually sweeps down the middle. Maybe we do make a sweep down the middle. Maybe we do kind of a U-shaped notch like this, right? That could be kind of a cool graphic. But you get these resultant graphics from these intersections. And so let's say now we bend the rules a little bit and we allow, I'm going to pull this forward, and we allow another cut plane. So like maybe we've got a graphic there that we like, but it just needs a little something more. So I could just pull that guy down and we could do, I don't know, do we cut through this way? Maybe. Do we? The idea here is to get these planes intersecting about as perpendicular as possible to the surface. So that we get a truer intersection than if we were just kind of drawing and cutting the surface ourselves. You know, the resultant perpendicular intersection between a volume and a plane is a pretty honest resultant shape. So, you know, it's kind of a rough idea here. And obviously, we could put in more cut lines, or more cut lines, more splits. Say I have another split there. Then I could get a sharper angle if I wanted to. Point is, this can really be played with a lot. Can really come up with some very interesting resultant surface graphics, kind of. And that technique really lets us find some interesting shapes. Because if we were to come back, let's say I wanted this guy to sort of follow that curve. I can just throw in an extra edge, why not? Okay. And maybe I'll pull this guy down. You know, whatever seems like a pleasing result, but it's a matter of exploration. I think we can find some really fun exploration. And in fact, I have with this technique. So that's the gist. And it might also make it a little easier to see this as kind of a complement color. A little easier to tell. But that's the idea. It's a matter of kind of starting with a basic volume and then saying, okay, let's turn this into our own interpretation. It's the same topology as everything else. And, you know, what are the variations that can come from that? If you hand this one assignment to a room full of students, or a virtual room in this case, what are you going to come up with? All kinds of stuff you never would have guessed. So that in itself makes it something I think a lot of people could have fun with.